it looked like a dog, you know. They call it like the Dog Man or something. I mean, this thing was built. I mean, this thing was rugged. I mean, it's something I wouldn't want to tangle with it, you know.
One night, I'm sitting there and I had a dead body in my bed.
Yes, that's when I started hearing the doors opening and closing and them walking through the house.
Well, he was already waiting for it, I guess. He ended up putting up his rifle and he took a shot and he downed it. And it fell. Not much longer after that, a huge one came out.
Welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. I am your host, John Methencamp. On tonight's show, we have a returning guest. Probably all remember him, Rod from Lodge Tales Podcast. How you doing tonight, Rod?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, John.
So it's been like a month or two since you've been on the show. For newer listeners, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, my name's Rod. I'm from the Blackfeet Indian Reservation, and I was born and raised there. Raised in the traditional ways of our tribe. Don't know too much about Western religion per se, So yeah, that's kind of who I am, and I've been doing these podcasts with John because we're kind of aligned in a similar direction as far as our fascination with the paranormal, the strange, the unknown, just things like that. So yeah, that's kind of who I am and what I like.
Well, I've listened. I can't say that I've listened to all of your episodes because I'm a very busy man.
Yep.
But I do listen to your show, and I find the accounts that you have on your show just fascinating. I mean, hearing them from a different perspective, I think, is what's so neat to me, because a lot of my guests, they're Western, I guess you would say, they're, so we look at it a different way, and to hear the perspective of, Native Americans, it's really interesting to me. So if you haven't yet, need to check out Lodge Tales. I put a link in all of my descriptions to his show because it's one of my favorites. So, but tonight we're gonna talk Bigfoot and cryptids. So you told me in a previous episode that your tribe calls them the nowhere people. Is that what they were called?
Yeah, that's one of the translations for it. Yeah, there's a few ways they say it. They all translate to one of them's hairy man, of course, the nowhere people, and one is it just goes like this, like, don't know where they come from. It's just a simple, basically a statement that they call them too. The old ones used to. Yeah, so there's like 3 different ways they're referred to.
So in your tribe, are they considered like guardians of the forest, or I know in some tribes they just consider them just another tribe, but maybe a little more?
Yeah, well, see, there's a couple of different schools of thought in my tribe. You talk to one group of people and they say, oh, it's a spirit. And you talk to another group and they say, no, that thing's like flesh and blood. Then another group will say, well, it's both. And that's the camp I'm a part of. It's both. It can be both. So, but as far as what its, I guess, role, I guess you'd say, is like for us, we had a relationship with it. That's probably a better way to describe it. What's its relationship to you and your people, I guess? And with us, it protected us. A lot of my ancestors, when they would go out and fast, this being would protect them, right? Like it would clear out any enemy or like wolves, anything like that, because you were basically helpless when you went out to fast. So they would protect you. And that right there, to me, always says they respect this way that we have, this medicine that we're seeking, this, this going forward and asking those spirits for help. There's something to that they respect. Why, or else why would they protect you when you're out trying to do it? Why would they support you? And a lot of times they'll do it without you even knowing. You'll never even know they were there, but you're safe. So I mean that's kind of, I guess, the relationship traditionally that we've had with them. And there's more to it too. Even on the spiritual side of it. So that might be the physical and spirit side of them helping you. But again, on the spirit side, there are people that actually got medicine from them. Bigfoot medicine that they got from them. And what do I mean when I say medicine? And if I haven't described it before, I'll kind of describe it again. So when you hear any of these indigenous folks refer to a medicine man, we'll call it that. They say, oh, that's a really powerful medicine man. What they're saying is that person has a lot of life force that flows through them. Life force, or you can say your spirit is a life force too. That's the power within you. You can say that. So the life force of, say, Bigfoot, the spirit, the life force that's in it, that is sometimes granted to people. Control over that is sometimes granted to certain people, and it's all according to some way I don't understand, and I'm probably not meant to. Just like when somebody gets that type of medicine, it's for them to know it would be a personal type medicine, because we don't have a bundle that's specifically made from Bigfoot and transferred to people. We don't have one like that.
What do
So
you mean
any
by
sort of
bundle?
a bundle is like medicine that belongs to the people in general, like the tribe. Those are usually what bundles are. They usually belong to the people. Okay, so one of the bundles, the beaver bundle, that was given to our people to right a wrong that was done long, long time ago. Over 12,000 years ago. And so what ended up happening was that these animals had given the control of their life force to the humans in order to preserve their kind. They didn't want to be wiped out because of this mistake that one of those beavers made. So he called on all the life force that was in the Blackfoot country, in the Blackfoot world at the time. And all of those gave something to that bundle. All of them gave control of their life force to this bundle. And that's for the people. That was a treaty between the animals and then the humans. And so that's what that was for. And we don't have one of those for Bigfoot. When people come and get medicine and they have this Bigfoot medicine, it's because they were out fasting and one of their spirits came and gave it to them. And, said, okay, this one's real. For whatever reason, like I said, I don't understand why they pick you, why they don't. But some people have been picked and they've had this. And usually that type of medicine passes away with them. It's not meant to be in this world forever. It's for that time. For whatever reason, they know what's going on. That's their business. It's not really mine. I don't know why they do it or what they see. Why that's worthy of it, or why they should even approach and give it to people like that. But it is for a reason, and they do it because they see that reason. And so something like that usually passes away with the people. It's never transferred down the line to the different people. So like with the like say that beaver bundle I was describing, that from the very first people that ever got it a long time ago, part of their spirit stays with that too. A part of them stays with it. So they transfer out from the first people to have it to the second people. Part of that first person's spirit is in there all the way down, all the way down. There's all this life force that's within it. And so like today, when somebody prays for you that has one of those, the amount of life force that's being called upon and directed toward you is massive. It's massive. That's why they're so powerful. Now, that's not to say that this Bigfoot medicine isn't as powerful, because it is. It's just it's not passed the way this other one is. There's a difference there. See, now I'm not saying there can't be a Bigfoot bundle, but I don't know of them in our tribe. And there may be in some other tribes where they're closer to it, because like a lot of the natives from Washington had a closer relationship with these beings than we did. So I mean, even in Alaska, there might have been some tribes that were closer to them up there from a long time ago, before the Russians came and kind of flushed out their ways that they used to have, their traditional ways. They may have been closer because obviously that's a bigger country where a territory where I feel there's more of them up there, versus down here. So who knows? Who knows how many people have had this, but it is a thing. So I guess that in the relationship with the spirit, that's one of them. It would give you these gifts, to heal or to do whatever gift it decided to give you.
So when you say that the Bigfoot spirit is a protector spirit, how do you feel about whenever people have a negative encounter? Then like a violent
Yeah.
encounter.
Well, see, that's the thing is we can't put it in a box, just like you can't put all humanity in one box. We're all not the same, and it's the same with every single spirit out there, all the way from the little people to those Bigfoot to the water spirits to the thunder beings. You can't put them all in one box because they're all individuals. It's not just one spirit. There ain't just one Bigfoot spirit. There's many of them. There ain't just one little people spirit. There's many of them, and they're all individuals. They're all their own character, each one.
Do you think that? I mean, I think it would be awesome to be out in nature, knowing that I got Bigfoot protecting me because nobody's going to mess with you if you got Bigfoot standing behind you. It's kind of like when you're a little kid and your dad's behind you. You'll run your mouth. I'm gonna run my mouth to anybody if I know Bigfoot's behind me.
See, that's the difference. There is when you're out, and this is how I understand it. So when you're out and you're fasting, and a spirit like that does come to you, there's really not a lot of. Let me put it this way: you get humbled by it because that happened. It's a humbling experience. So a lot of these people that do have these types of gifts, they're not like, out there to pound their chest in your face. They're not like, it's a humbling thing, man. It's life altering. It makes you realize, hey, I don't need, well, like this. A lion doesn't have to tell you it's a lion. It just is, right? That's kind of like how they are. It's really humbling. Like, there's no need for that anymore. It's like, I could go on and on with the analogies, but I think you get the point. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how they are. They're like that. You'll notice it. So when you go around some of these really powerful holy people, just being there, you can feel like with the guy I grew up with, my great uncle, just being there, you can feel it coming from him. That life force that's around and with him, you feel it, and it's so powerful and good because it's all these good spirits that are around him that it lifts you up. It takes your mind out of this little pettiness and it brings you above. And just being there around the guy, and then like when we were kids, we helped him build his Sundance Lodge and everything like that. And he was always taking us boys, as teenage boys, and showing us things. Always, all the time, talking to us and things like that. So I spent some time with him. Not as much as some of my friends have, but I spent a bit of time with the guy and always visiting him with my grandpa. That was my grandpa's, they were raised as brothers. So every time he went to his house, I went to his house, So I was around him quite a bit, but like I said, not as much as some of my friends. And just knowing how powerful the guy is, he was the most humble person you would ever meet. Like the most humble person. Like that's not to say he wouldn't get mad. No, this guy is a Korean War veteran. You know, he been there, done that, got the T-shirt. He was a chief of police. He was a judge. He was all these things, but in his older age, he was a really powerful holy man. And uh, he was such a humble man. And I remember one time when we were getting the Sundance poles for the arbor, I seen his hands when he was driving his old truck. We're all in with him, piled in with him, and he had arthritis at this point. And I said, why don't you get that fixed? Why don't you have somebody doctor you and get that taken away? He looked at me and he says, oh, my boy, he says, it keeps me humble. And I never knew what that meant. I never knew what that meant when I was at that age. I'm like, humble? Who cares about humble? Get your hands fixed so you don't have to suffer. Like, what are you talking about? But no, as I'm older, I realize, like, those people, that type of thinking's on a whole nother level. Like a whole nother level. And I realized that today because, yeah, he could have gotten himself doctored, but in order to be a better man, to, basically be at the mercy of others for their help and actively decide to do that is just powerful. I mean, to me, it's really powerful. It shows why those spirits went to him all the time, why they chose him for all of these things that he did. And they would talk to him. He was one of those where, and this is where I don't understand people. Oh, I'm a medium. I'm a psychic. Okay, cool, man. But like, I seen a guy do exactly what you're talking about, and he doesn't describe it the way you do. He's scared. He's not like he'll think and he'll focus and he'll just basically blot out everything in existence and only focus on that. And it's serious. I've never seen, anything like it since, And so I wonder a lot of times about that. Anyways, I'm going off on a tangent.
That's what we do, Rod. That's what we do on the show. We just go wherever the conversation leads, and it's fine. But I did want to say, you were talking about that feeling that you get. You called it like this, the humbling feeling of having the presence of a Sasquatch or whatever, that spirit around you. Do you think that, especially for people like me that aren't in touch with that part of reality, that maybe when they're out in the woods and Sasquatch or Bigfoot, whatever you want to call him, is around, do you think that maybe that feeling that they're feeling, they don't know what it is, so maybe that's what causes the fear because they've never felt that before?
It could be. I've thought about that too, and I thought, well, if I was out there, I try to put myself in the shoes of these experiences that I've heard. And would I be afraid? Yes, I know I'd be afraid. I mean, I think it's only natural to be afraid of something like that, out of the ordinary. It's not within our wheelhouse, and to see something totally knock you off track as far as reality is concerned, it's gonna rock your little boat, and it will humble you too. That's what I think too. Is as far as like that feeling of fear and what they're, that humbling, I think that's all a part of it too, because you'll also hear people tell stories of, oh, look, man, I quit hunting after I had this experience. So yeah, I think it does have a way of humbling you that through fear or whatever, but yeah, I think so.
And I'm not even talking about, I'm talking about even the people who don't physically see this creature. Some people just get that overwhelming fear just because there's something there.
Yeah.
And maybe that goes back to what you're saying is, just the presence of these creatures or spirits, whatever you want to call them. We're talking about the same thing. Maybe just them being there, the energies that they're giving off, people just don't know how to wrap their minds around it. And the first thing that it leads to is fear.
I get you. I get what you're saying. Yeah, because you can feel. Okay, so like your spirit. One time I was talking to this lodge man. He's got a lot of rights to a lot of medicines, and I was talking to him one day. Well, my father-in-law was talking. There's three of us sitting there: my father-in-law, this man, and myself. And I don't remember exactly what our conversation was, but it was about spirits and things like that. And I said, "Well, how is it that we know when there's something bad around? Like, how do we know this? Like, we can feel that there's good, we can feel that, and how do we know that there's bad? Or how do we even know that there's even a spirit around? Why is it that we can sense these things a lot of times, and other people from other ethnicities can't? Like, what is that? Because I was curious. I was asking, like, why do we have so many of these paranormal experiences and they don't? What do you think that's about? That's kind of like how my question was to him, and he looked at me and he said, "We just know." And it was really a simple answer. He said, "Because your spirit senses it, so we just know." And see, and that kind of led me to, like, okay, well, we're raised this way. We're raised to, respect those spirits and to, know that they're real, for one, know that we even have a spirit. And so to me, that made total sense, but it was just a really simple answer. So when these beings are around, depending on, say they had medicine, say it was just a spirit of one of them that was around, or of another kind. I think on some level you'll still sense it, because we all have a spirit. You'll sense it. And, depending on what it is. But like I said, those really powerful ones are more easier to sense. They're like just in your face. So yeah, I think that might be it. And since it's not a normal feeling that you're used to, it kind of scares you a bit. No, I see what you're saying, and that's what I think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like what you were saying is, in your culture, it's taught, it's not you're taught about these spirits. You're taught to be in touch with these feelings. Whereas people like me, we're taught from a very young age that it's all in your head.
Yeah.
This stuff doesn't exist. And, if it's not in this book, it's not real. So I think that when people do experience things, that people that aren't in touch with this reality, because it is a reality, you and I both know that there is we'll call it a spirit realm, a paranormal realm, supernatural realm, whatever you want to call it. But when you're first, if you don't believe in any of that, and it hits you in the face that first time, it's scary,
Mm-hmm.
So people in your culture, this is the time in the show when most people would have an ad break for their sponsors. I don't have any sponsors. So if you'd like to support the show, you can do it a couple ways. One, you can go over to TikTok, subscribe to my channel, and you'll get some perks over there, such as early access to all the episodes before they come out, some fun little stickers to use during the chat, and a shout out before the next show. The other way you can do it is by buying me a coffee. Go over to buymeacoffee.com. Look for Myths, Monsters, and Mullets. You can make a small donation there. Eventually, there will be upgrades to that, where you'll get the same perks as you do on TikTok. Thank you for your support. Aren't taught that, or more prepared for it, I guess is where I'm going with that, because it's widely accepted in your culture to tell your kids about it, explain it to them. And I think we're missing that. And this can go even with, we'll take Christianity. You know, there's a lot of Christians who, you know, the spirit realm doesn't exist. Paranormal doesn't exist. You know, it, it just doesn't. And that's what they teach their kids. And now I'm getting off on a tangent. but I guess what I'm saying is, you know, once you have an experience and you come to the realization that cryptids are real, ghosts are real, the supernatural realm is real, the spirit realm is real, it opens your eyes. But your culture, your people's eyes are opened at a young age instead of just waiting for this to happen to them.
Yeah, yeah. See, and a lot of it, geez, a lot of it happens. It's really the ceremonial life, like the ones of us that are raised around that, kind of have this. You also, on the different reservations, will have people that are raised strictly Christian, strictly Catholic. There's a mixed bag yet. So it's not everybody from my tribe, but even in that community, if you were raised Christian, you will hear so many stories about different spirits. Just being in the community, you know, because you're still native, and it's not like they gonna look down on you because you're a Christian. They don't. You know, like some of my family are Christians, and geez, I love them all. I totally accept everything they do. You know, and it's nothing we look down on with them or them look down on us. I mean, you know, it's just one of these things where not everybody is raised with this, I guess, insight with the spirit world and what it is and you know what it ain't either. You know, because there are times where you know people will say, "Look, I got visited by my grandpa, and he had passed on like 2 years ago." You say that to a Christian one time. Now this is funny. I was in jail. I was in jail on a Blackfeet res one time, and it was it wasn't no serious crime. I was let out like what over the weekend. I had to stay because there was nobody to arraign me, and I got caught on a Friday, and so I got let out Monday with a slap on the wrist, just public intoxication. Full disclosure here.
It
I
happens
was
to the
out
best
walking
of us.
around. I was too far gone, and they put me in there for my own betterment, so I wouldn't get hurt. So, anyways, Sunday rolls around, and here's these Christians that would sing in the chow hall, and they would, you know, preach the word of God to them, you know, to whoever would listen. And so I'm sitting there, and I wait for the whole thing to get done. And I said, "So, what happens when you have somebody, a past relative, you know, that made the journey, when they come back and they tell you something? Oh, that wouldn't happen because all souls that are, you know, they all go into this place and they wait for judgment. So they're just all waiting there. So whatever came to you is a demon." And I said, "Okay, well, is that what's taught with you guys?" And they said, "Yeah, that's the truth." And I said, "Okay, all right. Well, I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. And have a good night." I just walked away. I wasn't going to argue with somebody about their ways. That's like arguing with, say, a Lakota about how they do their Sundance versus how we do ours. There's just no point. That's their way. That works for them. And I understand that. So I wasn't going to argue with them. But in our way, we would say, no, that's not how it goes. They can come back, right? So we're also taught what it's not, you know, according to us. You know, just because your relative came back and visited, you could be in a dream, it could be like full body apparition even. That doesn't mean that they're a demon. necessarily. So that's one of the big ones that really we tell our kids is that we don't know everything about the spirit world, but there are a few things we do know. And how do you distinguish if somebody did come back and they were evil entity posing as somebody you loved? Again, it goes back to me asking that old man, well, how do you know? Like, you just know. Your spirit can sense it. You just know. So we always kind of refer back to that. In general, the rule of thumb is if you're scared, it's something bad. If you're not scared, then, it's okay. But again, that can even be misleading. So it's really, I guess, situational as how you kind of navigate that.
And at the time of this recording, due to, podcast time travel, there will be an episode when this episode released. There will be one that's going to release before this, where, you were talking about the Christians that were there, singing, and, you asked that question. I did a round table with some like-minded people, and one of them is a Christian pastor, and not all Christians believe what you just said. Let's just put it that way. So
that's good.
if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I encourage you to go back and listen to that, even though it hasn't been released yet as of this recording. It will be by the time you're listening to this, when it is released, if that makes sense. Podcasting is so great. You got to keep track of the past and the future at the same time.
Yeah.
But yes, there are. I mean, I'm a Christian, and I know that ghosts are real. The way I believe is that if you're seeing a ghost, it's because God allowed it.
Yeah.
Because nothing exists without God. So if you're seeing your loved one or whatever, it's because God allowed it. So, but watch that other episode. The one that isn't out yet, but will be out when you're listening to this. Watch that episode. We're off topic again. This happens every time you come on my show, Rod. Oh, wait a minute. It happens every time I have anybody on my show. So we were talking about Bigfoot, weren't we? So we talked a little bit about Bigfoot. Do you have any new Bigfoot encounters that you've heard recently?
So, there's just a few of them. I don't know if you've heard. How about the one where the guy shot one?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so the guy that told this story about his experience where he's seen it shapeshift, he goes on to tell me another one about one of my other friends, and I never knew this, but he said because that experience led him into hunting. I don't know about hunting, but researching, I guess, would be better. Bigfoot and stuff like that, and so he gets a call one day to go out and check out what happened because one of my friends that lived closer to the mountains at the time, things start happening to him. He would go get deer and he'd be hanging them out in his shed. They would take the deer away. His deer would be missing, and just things like that start happening. And I want to say one of his dogs got killed. That's what kind of led to the whole, kind of blew up the situation, pissed him off. I want to say one of his dogs was killed and thrown on his front porch. So he ends up waiting. He kind of stakes it out, and just waits and waits. And finally he sees one come out. And the way it was described to me was there was this little river, and it crossed that river. And it was just kind of, snooping and pooping along, kind of taking its time, looking around and, trying not to get caught. Well, he was already waiting for it, I guess. And he ended up putting up his rifle and he took a shot and he downed it. and it fell. Not much longer after that, a huge one came out and picked it up, and it started screaming like it was mourning. Like it lifted its head straight in the air and it was screaming while it was holding, like cradling this body. And he got pictures of this. Apparently there's pictures of this. My friend seen them because he was investigating it and he's seen these pictures. There was also a gentleman from the History Channel that came. And my friend Bruce, who was doing the investigation from our tribe, he ran him off. He said there was something about him he didn't like. He was not a very genuine person, and he ran him off. And so, anyways, after he seen those pictures, and started asking him more about what happens, he says, that big one, he said, I think it was a male, and the one I shot was a female. And it carried her back into the tree line where they come out at. He said, and then a few days later, he says, my horse, the one I always rode, and my favorite horse, it was killed and thrown on my front porch. And all these things, it just got worse from there. It just kept raising hell with me. Destroying things, killing things. He ended up moving away from there, and he actually moved away from the res for a while. And he still, to this day, don't live on the res. He lives a few towns over, small little towns, but he doesn't live here no more. So I don't know. He was one guy I'm trying to still get on my podcast because I want to hear this story. Like, I want to hear it from him. I heard it secondhand, but I want to hear it from this guy, my friend. And geez, last time I saw him was in my drinking days. We were all partying by a lake, dancing in the car lights. My wife now, girlfriend at the time, him and his crew. So yeah, I'd like to catch up with him again and ask him about that. What happened there? And for one, is it true? Because I heard it secondhand. That doesn't mean it's true. I would like to hear it from him. Then I can make that decision myself. But it's a crazy story, and it's the only story I know of that happened on our res. Apparently, where somebody shot one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there are other stories too. I don't think I've told you. Like, here's this one from my wife's cousin. It's like her brother. Anyways, he's my good friend too. Well, his sister was in the Marine Corps, and she ended up marrying one of these southern men. I don't know what part of Mexico he's from, or his family is originally from, or whatever. But a man from down south. She brought him back up to the res to introduce to the family, and they had a couple kids together and everything like that. Well, when they were home on leave, they took him out hunting. The boys did, and this place they were going was where one of these old Blackfeet would warn Clifton, don't go over that hill. Wherever you guys go, just you guys fish around here, hunt around this area, wherever you're gonna be. And this area that I'm talking about is called Star School, and it leads. It's like right in the mouth of going into the mountains. It's just like right there. And so this old man used to live kind of closer to that mouth, up by a place called Sweet Pine. He stayed closer that direction somewheres. And he would always talk to my friend, because my friend would go visit him. He was an elder, an old, powerful man. Bring him tobacco, things like that. Visit with him. And one day he was telling him, yeah, you guys hunt, all through here where you want, but don't go over that ridge right there, because that's where those hairy men are. That Bigfoot are on that side. That's their territory. Don't mess with that. There are beaver dams over there. It's really good fishing, but just, stay away from there, because that's where they're at. And what does Clifton do? He brings this brother-in-law of his over to that place to fish. But I don't know why he did that, why he went against what the old man said, but he had since passed away, and he went over there. Well, before he gets there, they park up high, and Clifton leaves his wife there, and he goes down with his brother and his brother-in-law, and they're looking at those beaver dams. But before he goes down, he says, "Hey, if anything happens, anything weird, just stick to these clearings and make your way all the way back through these clearings and up to that truck, all right? If anything weird happens." And so at one point they're in there, and Clifton has this dog, a beagle, it's kind of bark all crazy. He had one of these little dogs, and he comes walking out because they were done fishing. He comes walking out. Here's this big giant tree that was fell, and he would walk on the other side of it, but he couldn't see over it. He'd walk on one side of it, and he'd hear something on that side. He's like, "What the hell is that?" He'd walk around a little bit further, and he'd hear it moving, like pacing him. Just kept doing that. So finally he'd come back around the other side of it and walked on the other side of it. And as he passed by this huge pine tree, he looks, and on the corner of his eye, he's like, "Man, I was that thing." He says, "Man, my face was only like up to about somewhere near its stomach, not even to its chest. This big hairy man." He says, "And I just kept walking." So I walked along that tree, and I went up on the side of this little hill, and there was another little tree up there. He says, "Oh, my dog was just going nuts." He said, "It sounded like somebody was beating him up, just going nuts." He said, "I had to kind of tuck him in my coat and zip it up and hold him." So I was sitting there waiting. He says, and my brother comes out of there, and he said he come out that same place I did. Instead of walking around that big giant deadfall, he walked on that same place I did, right by that big tree where that thing was standing. He says he walks by, and he kind of gets up that hill a little bit, and he's breathing hard, like, "Oh, what the hell's wrong with this guy?" Because that dog was still kind of acting up. And he says, "Hey, look at that tree where you just come out at." He says, "You'll see why he's barking like that." And so he sits down, and he's like, "What tree?" And he's like, "What? Oh, what the fuck is that?" He's like, "You see that?" And he said, "Yeah." Then it peeked. It peeked around at them. Holy shit. "Yeah, I walked right by that." He said, "Yeah, yeah." So they're sitting there looking at it, and it's hiding behind this tree, but they could still see it, and anyways, they get up and they leave. They're, "Let's go back up to that truck." So they start heading back up. Okay, now, their brother-in-law was at a different spot, on a different beaver dam, and he was fishing, and he said, "Man, I thought you guys were messing with me, and because something kept throwing rocks near me, in the water, right behind me, just kept throwing rocks at me, kind of big ones too." He said, "So I remembered after a while when at first I thought it was you guys, and I remembered, wait a minute now." He said, "If something weird happens, just follow these clearings and go all the way back up to that truck." He said, "So I reeled in my line, and I start hitting those clearings and got the hell out of there. And by then, they were already up there waiting, and he got up and he said, 'Hey, were you guys throwing rocks at me?' They bust out laughing. 'What happened?'
So
They told him
that
what was
basically,
happening.
that whole area is just full of Bigfoot, and that was why they were told not to go over there.
Yeah.
And they had, typical, "I'm not listening to Dad. I'm going to do whatever I want."
Hmm. Yeah.
And then they effed around and found out.
Yeah, they had to run out of there, and they did. They left.
So
That's what they'll tell you too. Those older ones, they'll tell you if you see them, go the other way. Don't bother them. Just leave them.
yeah,
I've always heard that.
wow. I can imagine. I don't know how tall this guy was, but if I was to look over and I'm looking at the belly button of this thing, I mean, I'm
It's like
6'2",
10.
so that would
It's
make
like
it like at least 10, 11, 12 foot.
yeah, 10 foot, something like that. Yeah, it was big. He said it was massive. It was a big one.
That blows my mind. As much as I want to see one, I don't know if I want to see one.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
me neither. I have a friend that's seen one coming through the mountains from Kalispell over to Browning, and he had to pick up a friend that was left at a powwow over there one night, and on the way back, it crossed in front of the road by them and walked out into this field, like just like how natural parks kind of form in the mountains, like these little clearings. That's how it was, this little straightaway that was kind of flat within the mountains, and that's where it crossed. And he's, now this guy telling me the story, Christ, he's like 6'4". I look up at him when I'm around him. He's tall. He's a big guy, cop, great big guy. And he was in a little car, and that's what he picked his friend up. And this girl, she got left over there. And so, anyways, they're coming back, and he said, "Man, when that thing crossed," he says, "we could feel it walking. Like we could feel it." He said, "and this thing was massive." He says, "It looked at me, it looked at us. I'm sitting in the car, and he says, I had no doubt in my mind it could have just ripped the roof off my car and plucked us out like nothing if it wanted to. But it had this look like, hey man, don't mess with me, I won't mess with you." And then it just kept walking out into that field. He says, "But man, that thing was huge." And I was joking. I said, "Oh, she must have been as tall as you, huh? Pretty big." He said, "Oh no, man, this thing was way bigger than me, like way bigger." And the way he describes it is like this was like a 12, 13 foot tall one, huge, huge thing.
I can't put it, like, it doesn't even register with me what something that big would look like, but
Yeah.
I hear about he said he could feel it walking or whatever.
Hmm.
When I hear things like that, it makes me more sure that with my own encounter, I didn't see it, but I heard this thumping sound and heavy thumps, and I thought, I mean, you've been around horses, correct?
Hmm.
And when they get thirsty, they start pawing at the ground.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And we were camping and horseback riding, and I thought that's what was happening. I thought one of the horses was pawing at the ground. It wasn't quite like, they do it pretty quick, but that's the only thing that registered with me was, oh, it sounds like the horses are pawing because I'm hearing this thumping sound on the ground. And I wonder, had I been sleeping on the ground rather than in the horse trailer with, the tires, would I have been able to feel it? Because it was a
Oh.
very heavy thumping sound. Sounded like it was right outside the horse trailer. That's why I thought it was the horses,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm I like I said, part of me, I would love to see one, but then again, I don't know if I want to see one.
I know, right? Yeah, that would be pretty intense, man.
I don't know if I can clench my butt cheeks hard enough to keep poop from falling out. I might edit that part out, but probably not.
Yeah.
All right. So what about Dog Man? What do you think about Dog Man?
Dog man, heck if I have my own theories on this dog man. Um and it goes back to our oral history. So a long time ago when we got our first painted lodges, we got them from the predators, from all the predator animals is who we got them from. And geez, it's kind of a long story, so I'll just really shorten it up. Uh, the people were starving. They moved their camp. One person stayed with his family. On this butte above them camped were all of those predators. They were all camped up there. Spirits were all camped up there. They seen those people starving, and so the three types of wolves sent their sons down, offered them food, and invited them to come up. Of course, the people were afraid of them because when they came to talk to them, they made themselves look like humans. but they still had animal features to them, and the people knew they weren't real people, and they were afraid of them at first. Eventually, they take the food that they sent down, meat, and they ate it, and they moved their camp up there. And so over time, they got to know these people, and they kept themselves into human forms. And they liked them. They liked each other. And those predators liked the humans so much that they stayed with them. They made themselves like that, and they actually start having children. By the end of that winter, that man, I want to say his name was White Eagle, he was told to go visit each one of those predators in their lodge, smoke with them, smoke the pipe, that tobacco with them, and they're the ones that gifted him each a lodge, a painted lodge. And they were getting ready to leave after that winter was over, and they were going to move on and, go back to their people and hunt and everything like that for the spring. And that's when a lot of them predators wanted to stay, and that's when they started marrying and having children. With White Eagle's family, he had children and stuff there. So over time, they did that, right? And one other thing I'll say about that is when they left, that main wolf told this man, he says, do you know where we come from? And he said, no. And that spirit pointed up. He pointed up at the Milky Way. He says, right there, you follow that, right there. He says, if you ever need to call on me, that's where you direct your prayers to. Just read up that. That's what we call the wolf trail. We call it the wolf trail, and that's where you have to follow that when you pass away to get into that spirit world. And that's where that belief comes from. But anyways, so as the people stayed, those wolves stayed with them. All these other predators, different ones, and they would come back year after year, and more would stay, right? This kind of happened over time. But as this happened, they realized it was a mistake because these animals were having babies, with people. So in the Bible, you got the story of the Nephilim. That didn't happen to us. Our story, it happened with the animals. It's the same thing. And it was a mistake. And so it was eventually stopped. It wasn't done anymore. But what happened to all of these things? You hear of Goat Man. Yeah, of course it wasn't, that goat's not a predator, but Dog Man. You hear of all of these things. Different sorts of men, horseman. I've even heard of a bunny man, believe it or not. So where does this come from, Wolverine woman? I suspect it comes from whatever took place back in those days. And these are the relics that are still around, that pop up from time to time. That's my theory on that, and it's based off of these old stories. So I don't really know what they are. I just know that it's a thing. These different men, different type of men that there are out there. Well, in my own experience, I'm traveling from Heart Butte, and I'm going over to Med, and I'm with my girlfriend, my wife, back, 2003, early 2004. We're traveling, and it's about 25 miles roughly, maybe less, 20 miles. And there's a rainstorm, a big rainstorm, and I'm driving down through the old agency, that road, and I'm going to hit Highway 89 and then bounce over the hill to Med, where we were staying at my old grandpa's house. And, he had passed on, and my uncle inherited the house, but he said we could stay in it for a few months before I left to college. This is when I just got out of the military. So we're driving that night, and we hit old agency. There's a turnoff to Fourhorn Lake, which is we could do another podcast on just Fourhorn Lake alone and the strange things that have happened there. So we're coming by that turnoff, and the lightning's striking everywhere, right? And there's nobody on the road. It's just her and I ain't going very fast. I'm only going like, geez, 25, 30 miles an hour, somewhere like that. I'm not even going fast. And I glance to my left, just after that turnoff, and I see lit up behind it was this thing. Like it was on its stomach, like it was getting ready to do a push up. It's like how it looked like it was standing up, just getting ready to stand up. It was in mid motion to stand up on its hind legs. But I seen shoulders, not not like a dog, like ours, like broad, wide shoulders, and the arms, not like a dog's. Shit, they got four legs. They didn't have arms. This thing had arms as it was standing, and its head, it had pointy ears on top of its head, like they were pointed like a wolf. And what was strange about it was that the lightning hit behind it, but its eyes were glowing this red in front of it. Like, I could understand if the lightning hit as it was facing the lightning and you seen an eye shine briefly, the reflection. No, this thing was in. So the light was coming from behind it when it struck and it lit up the whole landscape. And as it was standing, its eyes were still glowing red. And I my wife didn't see it. Usually she sees everything I see when we're, like that, cruising like that. And she didn't see it. I was like, holy shit, did you see that? Because when I looked at it and the lightning faded, it was still standing up and its eyes were still glowing. But I turned to look straight again because I didn't want to wreck. But I looked right back again. And as I looked back, we were already going over that little tiny downgrade because it was laying in this micro terrain, almost like a little natural ditch. It was on the other side of it, just coming up over into that before you hit the fence, right by the road. And so that I already went over that little hill, that little decline, and shit, I couldn't see it no more. And I wasn't gonna stop because what I thought I saw, I thought I was losing my mind. I'm like, what the fuck? Did I just see a werewolf? There ain't no goddamn werewolves. Did I just see a werewolf? That's what I'm thinking. So we get back to the house. I asked her, "Did you just see that?" And she said, "See what?" And I said, "Oh, geez, I don't know. I don't know what I seen. It can't. If it was a bear, it wouldn't have pointy ears, but you know, its shoulders were like a man, but it had like a dog head. I don't know." So I get back and we go back over and I was talking to my father-in-law about it, asking him, "Hey, I seen something really weird last night." And I described everything, and he says, "Oh yeah, it must have just been a bear." And I knew he didn't have any answers to it, so I let it go. I didn't think about it until later on, geez, 2020 or so, when I hear people talking about this dog man. And hey, I've seen something similar to that. Now I couldn't tell you what it was, but if that thing was to have stood up, it would have been at least 7 feet tall, whatever it was. It was huge,
Holy cow.
pretty
How
big.
far away from you was it?
Geez, like from me to the mailbox is about no to the end of this house, so about 40 feet.
Oh, holy cow, that's close.
Yeah, as I just passed it. I mean, I'm talking. It was right there by the. You know how the fences are alongside the road. If you have like cattle or something, it's just like right there up to the road before the road cuts in, makes that cut bank. The fence is usually right on top of that little cut bank, and this thing was about 20 feet, and yeah, about 20 feet on the other side of it. So
Wow.
this thing wasn't very far from me, but that's how I was able to see that much of it to tell it had shoulders. Because it's not like it was way, 200 yards in a field or nothing. Shit, this was right here beside the road. And when it lit up, I had happened to glance, just before it lit up, I glanced over at that. Because there's like a sign or something over there, like a barrel or something near that area. I remember there was like something that caught my attention, like an old car, something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but as I looked, that thing shined and I seen that and I'm like, what the it happened so quick, but that's what I saw. So I didn't have anything in my face where I could definitely say, hey, this is what they call a dog man. I have no idea, but that's what it is. I mean, that's what I saw. And so I'm a believer in this dog man thing. Not only did I see something, that I could probably say, hey, it might be, but it kind of raises some doubt that this thing does in fact exist. And the other thing is the old story, that the story of the wolf trail that I briefly mentioned earlier, that kind of goes way back and makes me think, hey, this is possible.
Yeah. I think again, just like with Bigfoot, there's too many people reporting this thing. I mean, you've seen it, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, people that are listening, there's a lot of people they question the Dog Man thing, but there's more and more reports of this thing, and there's been reports of these things for centuries. They're not even just here in North America. There's been reports and sightings of these dog-headed men all over the world.
Damn. It's so interesting, and at the same time, it's kind of chilling because I can see this thing in my mind's eye, and I would hate to be out there in that field when this. Oh my God! So this. All right. My mind's kind of racing here. Okay, so this kid, my wife's other cousin, they were closer to Heart Butte in a place called Rose Coulee one night, and they were driving the same direction we were driving toward 89. They were driving that direction. Out in the field to their right, which would be the east, they see this person out there just running through that field, like just running, man. And they slow down, like, hey, who the hell is that? It's kind of moonlit night. Like, who is that? And Rose Coulee is a spooky place. Like, you do not want to be caught out there walking in that area at night. And so it was odd that there was somebody there, and they could clearly see it was a person. So, yeah, they were like a little kind of freaked out, but at the same time, they realized it was really somebody, so they stopped to help them. That person comes running and just bails that fence like nothing, like an Olympic hurdler, just bails that fence and he's carrying like this big box, and he comes running up to that car, and shit, it's their cousin. It's like, oh, what are you doing? And he had a big box of beer. He said, man, those guys are getting too crazy at that party, so I left and I start walking up, Heart Butte. He said, and then something huge, something was chasing me, man. Like, you guys didn't see it? No, but something huge was chasing me, so I just started running, man. Like, I just ran. And so that makes me wonder, too, what the hell did he see? Because he didn't tell my wife and him what he saw. Just something big, and it was dark, too, like, dark. You couldn't really tell what it was. So that makes me wonder about that thing. Did he get caught out there one night and this thing was around? Or what was it? Who knows? But yeah, that's really interesting when I think about that.
So that wasn't far from where you saw this thing?
It was up the road about, oh geez. No, it was a little ways away. It must have been about 5 miles away from where I seen it roughly. But then where this happened, where I seen this thing, okay, so if you go west of there's a river. These hills stop where a river cuts through. Then it turns into kind of flatter ground into like the river bottom. Then it goes back up into more hills on the other side. Well, right past that river, there's some coulees up there. And he's my friend too, but we would go to those holy doings and stuff together. But he was there coming off of that hill going down toward that river. There's a road down there, and there's a family that lives there. He was going down with one of the sons of that family, and he looked across and he seen their horse herd was up there. He said, and he could see there was something up there, so they stopped and they were watching it. And because their stud come out in front of that herd, and its nostrils were flared and tail straight up, and it was kind of standing something off. And the rest of that herd was behind, but they're all watching. He said, and it was really weird what come out of that coulee. He said this thing came out. He says it looked like a horse. It had 4 legs. He says, but it looked funny. Like its head looked funny. He says, man, and then when it got close to that stud, he said, he said it looked like it kind of bent down and then it stood up and it waved a hand. He said there was a human body on top of this horse, like a centaur looking thing. He said, and it waved its hand like it shooed that horse away. That stud kind of shied backwards and took off running, pushing its herd away from that thing. And so my friend was saying, yeah, that's one of those horsemen. But that's how he described it, was like that. I've also heard this horseman described as just a biped, not a full body like a horse, just the rear half of a horse with a man on top. I've heard of it described that way too. You know, another guy seen one of those right in Heart Butte. It was walking and it didn't even notice him. He was a little kid and he was playing in that. There's dirt over by in this field, kind of by like, they used to have an old salvage yard. He was playing right near there and that thing kind of walked by. I didn't even notice him. He said, but he seen it. Really kind of freaked him out. He said that was one of the first times he ever, I think that was his first paranormal experience. He seen that. But he said he got home. Yeah, ran home. So there are multiple things like that around. And what's even crazier about that biped one, I'm just going to throw this out there. I was thinking of leaving it out, but again, full disclosure, I'll tell you the whole thing he told me. He said it had a vest on. It was wearing a vest. Some sort of old vest when it walked by him.
He's like, pardon me, do you have any good grain?
Yeah, he said it had a vest on. He said it was crazy, and he ran from it. After it kind of went out of sight, he got up and ran.
Wow. The more you talk, the more I realize I need to come to Montana.
I could show you where these things have happened if you ever do show up. I'll show exactly where I seen that thing, and you know where that weird thing that happened with me down in the bottom, and that same place where my wife seen that little small Bigfoot. I could show you that exact place.
Yeah.
You know, and where my dad seen that big one standing by the cliffs. It was like caught dead to right, so it just stayed still. I could show you that place too.
Absolutely. And the hole in the wall.
Hole in the wall. I've never ever messed with that place. Everybody says to stay away from it, but I'm curious.
And
I want to take
camping
that
next to it.
Oh, I don't know, man. There's a lot of spirits out there. I don't know. I would suggest we don't.
All right.
Yeah, there's a lot.
You're more of an expert on it than I am, so I guess we probably ought to listen to you.
Yeah, that just gives me chills. I don't think I'd want to camp next to that place. I mean, there's fasting circles out there. There's like all kinds of. There's a lot of spirits out that way. And it's near 7 Mile Lane, one of the most haunted places on my res. So yeah, I don't think I'd want to camp out there.
So you've brought up 7 Mile Lane a couple times, and now you brought up Four Horn. So, I think that we really just do need to do a show on each of those.
Yeah, we should.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we've been doing this for about an hour and 10 minutes.
Okay.
I think this is probably a good place to end this one, but I know we could keep going for hours, dude, because every time we talk, it's you know, we've done this for an hour and I feel like we've only been talking for 20 minutes. So
feels like
we'll
like we barely even got anywhere either.
I know,
keep going.
So I think what we need to do is maybe have some regular, like a regular time for you to come in, like once every month, every 2 months or something like that, because we have so much we could be talking about, and I can't upload a 4-hour video. Nobody's going to watch the whole thing. So, so let's go ahead and end this one right here. And I really do want to have you back on as many times as I can. But before I do my little outro, why don't you tell everybody where they can find Lodge Tales podcast?
You can find us on Spotify, on Patreon, really anywhere you get podcasts. It's on YouTube. Red Circle is the platform I use, and you could also go on to Red Circle itself to listen to the podcast. But they kick out a YouTube version of it, of the podcast. It's all audio. And lodgetales.com is another place you can listen to all the free episodes. The members-only episodes are only on Patreon, though, so there it is.
All right. And I will put all the links to those things in the description. And if anybody has watched any of my videos and read the descriptions, I do mention your show in all my descriptions because I love your show and you're my friend and I want to help promote you. So,
Yeah, thanks, Woody. Likewise, man.
all right. And I think that's it for tonight. So I'll talk to you later. Gotta go.
All right. We'll see you.
And that's it for tonight. I'd like to thank Rod from Lodge Tales for coming in tonight. And if you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share, and tell somebody about the show. That's the only way we can grow.
Cause girl, we're rolling like a freight train. Cause what you